Welcome to Student Connections, where students connect with their community.
Hi, I'm Brendan Slosar, and welcome to Student Connection on M6, your hometown station. On today's program, we'll meet Amy McIntosh from AAMZ Studios. Ms. McIntosh tells us about her exciting career in public relations and marketing. She also gives our students some excellent advice. Let's go to Mickey Brast and Mrs. McIntosh now.
Hello and welcome to Student Connections on M6, your hometown station. I'm Mickey Brast, and today I have joining us Amy McIntosh from AAMZ Studios. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So our first question we have is, what exactly is AAMZ?
AAMZ is a collaboration of companies that does marketing, advertising, communications, promotions for a wide variety of products and brands.
Okay. And I was on the website and I noticed that it said AAMZ is also known as the studios. How did that come about?
It is. You know, AAMZ, the initials represent all the partners in the company. I am the M for McIntosh. So it's a mouthful, as you've probably tried to say a couple times. But
yeah.
The studios is kind of what we're known as, because once you get behind the executive offices and back into the fishbowl area where our graphic designers, our artists, our web developers, and our strategists are working, it's more like a studio atmosphere where there's, you know, the whiteboard walls and the rolly chairs and, you know, kind of a laid-back attitude.
And how long have you been working at AAMZ?
Well, I'm one of the founders, and we started 3 years ago. Prior to that, I spent 10 years running a different agency, and then before that I was working at other agencies, at some of the large agencies in Detroit.
Okay. And what is your current position?
I am the Chief Marketing Officer, which really sounds way more fun than it is. Basically, projects come into me and I Shark Tank them. So a client will come in with a new invention or a patent on a product, and they'll say, we're thinking of producing this in mass quantities and selling it at retail. What do you think? And I'll kind of vet the product. I look at the competitive industry, I looked at other products, what the trends are, who the demographic is, what it's going to retail for, who would buy it. And then if we take the project on, we then have to do everything for it. Name the product, design the product, packaging, point of purchase displays, advertising, marketing, communications, kind of everything start to finish. And then there's other times that as the chief marketing strategist or CMO, whatever you want to call me, I do a lot of spreadsheets, a lot of planning calendars, timelines, budgets, deadlines, kind of the fun sponge of the agency, or the necessary evil, as my coworkers like to call me. Another client came to us and said, let's start a record label together. And I'm like, sure, how hard can it be?
Yeah.
Right? So we started a record label, and we have a couple artists signed to it, and so I manage them just as a record label would.
Yeah, that's great. And now you said with your coworkers, how many coworkers do you guys have?
We have about 12 full-time staffers. It fluxes when we have other people in from our other entities, but there's 12 of us that work pretty closely together.
Okay. And you said you're the founder. How did you get your start?
Well, after college I went to work in a lab, like science lab, with white coats, and I worked with Bunsen burners, and I did that for about a year. And one day I kind of looked around and I'm like, I am not talking at all during the day to people. I'm doing my little lab work and I'm project managing, and this is my life. And it wasn't for me. So I left and I went and worked at a large ad agency in town as a media buyer. So basically doing really boring things, planning, buying media, buying ad space. And just eventually learned more until I was ready to take the leap and leave the big ad agency world and start my own.
And you said you've been doing this for 10 years now?
20 years.
20 years?
Yeah.
Oh, 20 years.
I
That's
know,
a
I'm so
longer
young,
time.
right?
You are. And what are your daily responsibilities that you have?
You know, they vary. It can be anything from vetting a new product to I have a musician on the road and I need to find a bus for this weekend, which is what I was doing right before we turned on the cameras, to booking interviews and public appearances for them, to doing marketing forecasts and spreadsheets. It just kind of is all across the board, which is why I love it. It's never the same day twice.
And without all those varieties of responsibilities, what is your greatest challenge that you would say that you have?
It always comes down to time management. There's never enough time in the day. And when you work in an industry like this, where it's communication and people-based versus working in a lab where I have a very controlled environment, you can't ever account for the human factor and what's going to go wrong and what's going to go right and what needs to change. In marketing, there's no silver bullet. There's no one solution that if you do this and if you market like this, it will work. it's always a combination of issues, and it's always different for every product. So being flexible and managing your time and being able to react when something happens is the greatest challenge, I think, in anyone in this industry.
Oh yeah, it's a great challenge in general. And now you really like your job because you've been doing it for like, what, 20 years now, like you said?
Since I was 4.
Yeah, since you were 4. And what are some of the perks of your job?
You know, it's at the end of the day, it's fun. At the end of the day, I get paid to tell people what to do. And who doesn't like telling people what to do? And, you know, it's not, we joke a lot, and it's a very relaxed environment. I always say it's not a heart in a cooler. On my very worst day, the absolute worst thing that can happen is a commercial doesn't air on time or a concert starts late.
Yeah.
You know, that's the worst case scenario for me. Now, to me, of course, that makes me sweat thinking the concert's going to be late. But, you know, versus someone in a very critical, you know, life-saving industry, that their worst day scenario is much, much worse than mine. So,
oh yeah. And now, what are your favorite types of projects that you have? Like, because you say you have like a whole bunch of like marketing and like the concerts and like the stuff like that, the albums.
You know, I can't really say that there is one. The music side of it is very interesting and it's fun. You know, everyone wants to work in the music industry, but what's changed so drastically, probably since you've been in middle school till now, is that the music industry, no one makes money on selling music anymore. We all steal it, and we're not supposed to talk about it, but we all do. It used to be you'd cut an album and you'd sell it at Harmony House, or you probably don't even know what that is, but at FYE, and you'd sell your CDs there and you'd make your money that way. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. You know, my middle schooler has more money in his iTunes account than I have in my checking book. It's all iTunes sales, and you get very little money after, you know, Apple takes their cut. So the music business is no longer the music business. It's now the business of music and finding alternate revenue streams for your product. So it's, you know, the reason you hear more and more music in movies and TV commercials is because artists are going out and labels are looking for those alternate revenue streams.
Yeah.
Merchandise sales, public appearances, things like that. So right now, that's what's the most challenging and fun for me, is because it's such an industry that's in flux. I can't wait to see where it goes next. But, you know, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, do you think that CD sales would, you know, not exist anymore, I would say no. And here we are.
And now, was the change in music, is it like better or worse?
I wouldn't say it's either. It has to evolve like that. Technology is evolving, therefore anything entertainment related is going to evolve. But if you look at trends and where things are headed, I think that iTunes is soon going to be a thing of the past too. I think by the time I'm a grandmother, iTunes will be obsolete, and it's going to be just live streaming music. You know, you have the Pandora, and now, you know, Apple has iTunes Radio. So there's going to be less and less avenues for artists to sell their music, and it's going to become more and more interesting for the industry to see where it follows.
And now, with the advancement of like iTunes and stuff like that, now how would you say that has changed the music industry in your opinion?
It definitely changed the way you market and promote a song, and it also made it more challenging on your strategy of releasing a song. It used to be you'd cut an album, 12 to 14 songs, you'd put it together, you'd package it, and you'd sell it. Well, now you're noticing more and more artists do a single release, and then 2 months later they'll do another single release, and then 2 months later they'll do an EP, which is like 4 to 6 songs.
Yeah.
And then you take Justin Timberlake right now, he did the 2020 experience where he did 10 songs and 10 songs, but he staggered the release of them.
Yeah.
He did that to monetize on it, because if you sell an album, your entire fan base purchases it one time. If you do a single, everyone goes out and purchases it. You wait, do another single, everyone goes out and purchases it. Then you do an album, that same audience has now purchased 3 times from you. So it's not a bad thing, and believe me, I'm a fan of iTunes and I love it. It's just really changed the way you have to think through your strategy in launching music and how you're going to monetize off it.
Yeah, like I notice how that, like when I buy music off of iTunes and stuff like that, like I'll have to buy like one song, then like next thing you know, it's like, oh, the album's out now? Okay, now I gotta buy it all.
Right.
And like how...
So you're really buying that song twice.
Yeah, so I'm just buying it twice. Now I have the same music.
Yeah, that makes me happy because I make more money.
Yeah, and now how do you think that iTunes and like music and stuff like that, how do you think it's gonna advance more in like the future?
I think it's going to become obsolete a little bit, and we're going to see more and more streaming. If you look at, you know, CES every year, the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas, when they're having the, you know, television as big as a football stadium, and, you know, radios and MP3 players that are as small as your thumbnail, I think we're going to see less and less of the the needing to own physical content anymore.
Yeah.
Even right now, everything's hosted on a cloud. You don't really have the iPod that you download music to. Most of your iPods are synced up to the iCloud. So kind of follow that trend and keep up. It's a huge challenge, you know, and what's hot today and what's going to be hot in 6 weeks, it's even a bigger challenge.
Yeah.
But that also gives me the opportunity to say, iPods aren't cool anymore. It's now going to be this thing, this dingle hopper.
Yeah.
Now I can make merchandise and accessories for the dingle hopper. And
Yeah.
it's a new avenue that didn't exist for me. So
Like-
it's fun.
Yeah, I like how we were talking about, like, in English class, like, we talk about, like, oh, what's going to happen with, like, books? Like, everyone's going to not want paper books anymore. Everyone's want electronic. Well, there's also still going to be those people that prefer the old books and still stuff like that.
There is.
Well, thank you. We'll be back with more after this.
The American Legion. We're a powerful force for the nation. We believe strongly in supporting the children of America. Our youth programs include American Legion Baseball, Junior Shooting Sports, Boys and Girls State, the Oratorical Scholarship Program, Support for Scouting, and many others. We support and promote citizenship and integrity in America's future leaders. Go to legion.org to find out more about the American Legion's commitment of service to America.
Hello, and welcome back to Student Connections on M6, your hometown station. And today we're talking about AAMZ Studios with Amy McIntosh. Now, back talking about the studios, do you work with anyone that's famous?
Fortunately, yes, we do. One of my partners at AAMZ, the second A in AAMZ, is a gentleman named Stuart, and he is the CEO of our company and my partner. And what he does is he really solidifies those relationships with celebrities, for lack of a better word. So a couple Red Wings that he knows very, very well come in and out a lot. Danny Cleary, Chris Draper, Zetterberg. I'm not a sports person, so I sat in a meeting with Danny and I walked out and I'm like, did anyone catch that guy's name? All I got was Danny. They're like, Danny Cleary, and I'm like, oh, thanks, Cleary. They're like, from the Red Wings. I'm like, hey, good to know. But so a lot of local athletes that Stu brings in. The music side of our business is something that, as we were talking about, is a lot of fun, but I get to meet artists from every genre. Asher Roth, who's a rapper.
Oh, yeah.
Super nice guy. He's come up and spent the day with us, brainstorming, strategizing.
You've met him?
Yeah.
Oh, I actually listened to a lot of his music.
Yep, he's been in. Nice, down-to-earth guy, fun, just what you'd think he'd be like. Cody Simpson is a very good friend of the agency.
I'm not a big fan of him, but
yeah,
I know other
you're
girls.
not 12, so.
I am not 12,
Yeah.
that is right.
But Cody came in with his entire family, with his sister, his little brother, his mom, his dad, spent the day at our agency. We've gone to see him a couple times when he comes to town, and he's just a good kid. And you hear all the press now about Justin Bieber and his behavior and how you want to reach through the radio and smack him. And when that technology is available, I'll give you a call because I think we all want that. But Cody's not like that at all. He's down to earth and nice and friendly and appreciative and genuine. Josh Grayson is one of the artists on our label that I manage day to day. So Josh is a country music artist. So again, from the rap to the teen pop to country, I'm kind of playing a lot of different fields. And Josh is a Michigan native. He's a U.S. Marine who was on American Idol Season 2 the year that Ruben Studdard and Clay Aiken were on. And Josh, is a great guy. He is what he is, and he calls it as he sees it, and he's very humble and fun to work with. This weekend he's going to be in Michigan, so I'm taken to, he has 2 shows, and then we're taken to a public appearance at Fenton High School's Wounded Warrior football game where they raise money for the veterans. So it's just a great way that when I work in this industry, I can personally see it in action and see it happen. But to answer your question, a lot of celebs come in and out. A lot of times I don't know they're celebs until they've left. But,
Yeah, like how you said
it's just
with,
like any other person you meet on a work day.
And now all of the celebrities that you work with, and you said a lot of them are good, like Cody Simpson and Asher Roth. Now, are they all good like that, or are they all some of them demanding and stuff like that, where they're like, oh, in my trail mix, I don't want any raisins or stuff
Any
like
raisins,
that?
yeah. The infamous rider. What that's called in a music contract is when you do a show, and I book an artist at a show, there's a rider that goes along with that contract that says, and it's basically to cover stage, light, and sound. A lot of what you work on here at the station, that, hey, he needs to have so many, and I'm not that person, but so many mic stands and this much space and this much hookup, and we need to have room for the bus to pull in, the tour bus, and then we need you to feed them before they go on stage. So there are these stories of artists demanding ridiculous things in their writers. None of my artists are like that. I write all their writers. Josh's writer is pretty basic. He'll say, a pizza please, and if you have a local place, that's always better than a big chain. But no, we don't have any crazy requests at all. When Cody came in and we ordered pizza for him and his family, their crazy request was, can we get one of them gluten-free? But no, we don't have any divas. I haven't come across that. I think that's more like urban legend in the industry, and it happened once upon a time, and people like to still talk about it. But
now, what specific skills would you need for someone to enter your industry?
You need to be a good speaker, and you need to have fun.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about my worst day at the office, nothing bad really happened. So you need to just kind of roll with it and have good planning skills. There's a lot of unknowns that we also touched on, but I don't know in school here if you have planners that you're required to keep, or any kind of scheduling document. I know a lot of schools issue every kid a planner, but with your iPhone or your iPod Touch, there comes a lot of planning devices. Really, really take that to heart, because those are skills in life that will take you far. Also, having good communication skills written is key. And it breaks my heart a little bit to see some of the younger interns we have come in that can send a text message that's like 9 paragraphs long. There isn't 3 words in it spelled correctly. And that's kind of a dying trend. So to really master that written skill and to come across as you'd want to become, thought of face to face with someone. So, writing is key. And, my biggest advice is to never be the smartest person in a room. Everyone you're in a room with is going to teach you something. Even if you think you know more than they do, you never want to be the smartest person in a room. So don't be afraid to talk to people and to ask questions, and seize opportunities when you meet someone that you're like, I'm probably never going to be able to meet a 5-star general from Selfridge, or I'm never going to probably be able to meet a professional athlete or a chemical scientist or Nobel Prize winner. Whenever you do have those opportunities, don't be shy. Use that opportunity given to you and absorb as much as you can. And that's going to go from everyone. It's from your grandparents, from your aunts and uncles. Just everywhere in life, you always want to look for something new.
Yeah, and now you were talking about the skills, do you need independent skills, like time management, like how you were talking, that was one of your greatest challenges. Do you need those kind of skills?
In marketing in general, absolutely. You have to be able to self-discipline, know what your own deadlines are. You don't have a boss literally checking up on you at all when you're in marketing. It's more of, hey, you're on this account, you're handling it, you're responsible for the whole thing, and see you when I see you. So it's not like as a boss on a factory line saying you have to put out so many widgets per hour. It's more of, if you don't get it done by December, you're in trouble. So self-discipline is key.
Yeah, that's kind of like what we have here in Comar. It's he'll give us a project, we have to get it done in so much time, and he's not I'm not one of your teachers, I'll be walking around making sure you're doing the worksheet. You have to have your time based, you have to know what you're doing, you have to have it planned out. If you need a voiceover, you got to get a voiceover. You need a cameraman, you got to have that. Right. And it's he's you got to have good time management. And I do. Yeah, and it's kind of how they tie in, because they're both good. You got to have good communication. You got to speak up in class. You got to ask if you got to be on a crew and stuff like that. Yeah,
and the biggest challenge I think in the music side of the industry is it's not a 9-to-5 Monday through Friday job. Bands are on stage at 11 p.m. in Denver, and that's 9 o'clock here. And that work-life balance, it's going to be hard. So if you want to go into the music business, the entertainment business, and the production business of any size, shape, or form, you're going to have to learn how to balance your work life. I have 2 children. I have other interests other than my job. But when my phone rings at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night, I have to take it. So you have to learn and kind of be okay with that going into it.
Now, if we talk about internships, would an internship be a good job to see if they want to go into your kind of business or in this kind of field?
Absolutely. I highly recommend everyone do an internship in any field, regardless of what your industry. You don't want to get stuck like me, working in a lab, not talking to anyone, wearing a white lab coat that washed me out every day for the rest of your life. So definitely do an internship. Most of them are paid. You'd rather go work at an internship in your career than go work, lifeguarding a beach. Sure, you're not going to get a great tan, but you're really setting yourself up for future success.
Yeah, and now talking about like internships and stuff like that and like going into the fields, what advice would you give to a high school student who is interested in your industry?
I would have them absorb, again, everything they can in high school and then look for those internships. Just start reaching out, just start sending the emails. Unfortunately, in entertainment and in music, it is in who you know. It still is that good old boy network of my mom's aunt, sister's neighbor knows someone who has an internship. But the earlier you start looking for them and applying for them, the better your chances are for getting them. So work really hard at it and don't take your eye off the ball. And even if you have to take a position in the industry that isn't exactly what you want, at least you're living in that world while you're working.
That's all we have here today on Student Connections. I'm Mickey Brast, and we would like to thank Amy McIntosh for joining us again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Join us again.
In order to beat breast cancer, I knew I would have to lose my breasts. But to reclaim my life, I chose breast reconstruction.
Each year, nearly 150,000 women will learn they will undergo a mastectomy due to breast cancer. But 7 out of 10 women are never told about their breast reconstruction options, and the numbers are even worse for minorities. That needs to change.
This living can't be called living if it's really only half a life. She's a flower that grows despite cement walls, and she will survive. She will survive.
I wrote the song Flower to raise awareness of this important issue. Breast reconstruction is a very important part of the healing process, both physically and emotionally, and all women should know their reconstruction options. Download my song Flower to share the message and help us share the knowledge that women can feel whole again.
Thanks, Ms. McIntosh, for sharing some interesting news about your career. Now, we'll change gears and meet Sergeant Gary Nesbit from our Michigan State Police. He is with Kyra Biscarner.
Hello and welcome to Student Connections here on M6, your hometown station. I'm your host, Kyra Biscarner, and joining me today is Officer Gary Nesbit with Michigan State Police. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Nice to meet you.
You too?
When did you first decide that you wanted to be a state police officer?
My brother-in-law was a trooper. He was assigned to the Detroit post, and he kind of talked me into it.
So it was kind of like a family thing?
There's really no police officers in our family. It was just him. The job sounded exciting. He was working in Detroit, and it sounded like fun.
Gotcha. Why did you decide that you wanted to be a police officer?
Basically, it was because of him. I had really no interest in being a police officer up till then. I was studying architecture at the time, but he talked me into it.
That's kind of cool. Did you just have to have like any special training?
We have our own academy. It's an 18-week program. It's pretty much like a military boot camp. You're up at 5 o'clock in the morning. You do your physical training. The morning usually consists of classroom stuff, criminal law, search and seizure, that kind of stuff. Then the afternoon, you break into groups and you do firearms, you do driving, you do water safety, you do defensive tactics, that kind of thing. So,
how long have you been a state police officer?
28 years, 6 months, 1 day.
What is your favorite part about being a state cop?
Probably that it's different every day. You really never know. One day is not like the next.
Yeah.
Every day is different. Every day is different people, different things to do. So
you never know what to expect?
You don't. Some days are boring. Some days are crazy off the hook.
So what is like a typical day like on the job?
Typical day, come in, load your car, go out and work traffic for a couple hours, take your dispatch complaints, and
kind of go from
pretty
there?
much your day, yeah. You're your own boss once you're out there. So
it's kind of nice.
Yeah, it is. So,
what are your responsibilities as a state police officer?
The state police mission basically is to patrol unincorporated areas, which means areas with no police officers. So Marysville has their own police department, St. Clair, Port Huron. So we don't really actively patrol those areas. We just help them if they need help. So we're more in the outlying areas where there aren't police officers.
So how long do you plan to continue as a police officer?
3 years, 5 months, 28 days.
Got it counting down.
I am. They are gonna make me retire then.
Gotcha. So how many different places have you been?
I started at the Ypsilanti post. I was there for about 7 years. Transferred to the Detroit post. I was there about a year. Transferred to the St. Clair post. I was there for, I think, 3 years until they closed it. Went to Richmond after that. Spent 2 years in Lansing at Training Division. Got promoted to a sergeant at the Detroit post and came back to Richmond, and I was there until they closed that. I'm currently at the Lapeer post. So.
Gotcha. So what is the most like rewarding part about your job?
I think just being able to deal with different people every day. You know, I guess the interesting thing about the job is you see the very best in people and you see the very worst in people.
Yeah.
And sometimes all in the same day.
Yeah.
So
what is the most unusual case you've ever seen?
well, I've had a fairly colorful career. So just case or day or most interesting case was probably a kidnapping case that I worked where they kidnapped a guy and tortured him for a couple days until he escaped, and that was a pretty interesting case. But we ended up arresting everybody, and everybody went to prison.
So when you have a case that doesn't go to court for a year or so, how do you go about that?
Oh, we write extensive reports. The biggest thing about police work that everybody hates is the paperwork. So you think that all you do is go out and throw people in jail and that's it, but no. Anybody you put anywhere, there's tons and tons and tons of paperwork, and we are a state governmental agency, so we love our paperwork.
So writing is like a very important skill that you have to have.
Yes. Probably one of the primary things that with the new recruits when they come in are lacking, and to tell you the truth, and we have to catch them up. So.
Sometimes police officers don't always like the lawyers. How does that kind of go for you?
I've never had a problem with lawyers at all. Most of them are doing their job just like me. I mean, they have a job to do. It's, you know, protect people's rights and make sure that due process is served.
Definitely.
And you can't really get mad at them for doing their job.
Yeah.
So.
Do you enjoy being a state police officer?
Yeah, it's a pretty rewarding career. I don't regret it for a second. Being a trooper was by far the best job I've had, just because once you get promoted, you become an administrator too. So now you have even more paperwork than you had before. So yeah, probably the best job was, I was just a trooper for 15 years, and yes, I really, really enjoyed that, just being out and dealing with people every day.
So what kind of people do you usually deal with on a daily basis?
Well, it depends on the day. Today, nothing but nice people right out of the gate.
That's great.
And some days you are dealing with the dregs of society. It just it depends on the day.
So has the newest government shutdown, has that affected the Michigan State Police in any way?
No, not so far.
Not so far?
Not so far. They're federal, we're state. So far we were unscathed, but we'll see what happens in the trickle-down funding.
So like, what are like some of the budget cuts, like in case of recruiting new officers?
Right now we are, we're in pretty good shape as far as our budget. The governor likes our agency. So we've actually had a lot of recruiting in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But we're down about 500 troopers, so we're trying to get back up to strength.
So would you recommend this job for young people?
That's a funny question because my son says he wants to be a trooper, and I tell you, it's a good job. It really is a good job. But I would recommend you become a doctor. Just because you're your own boss and you don't have the bureaucracy and the stuff that surrounds it. But yeah, I would suggest it to a person who likes to be outside, doesn't like the same humdrum sitting at a desk every day.
Yeah.
And you know, there's some exciting days. So, you know, it's more of a A-type personality job.
So what are like some of the like minimum requirements and skills you should have to be in the academy?
Minimum requirements are 21 years old, a U.S. citizen, high school diploma or GED, and that's pretty much it.
Pretty much it.
After that, if you can survive our program, we'll take it. So, but it's a rigorous training program, and it's not for everybody. I would equate it very closely to like Marine Corps boot camp.
Okay.
The only thing is you can leave if you want. You can just walk out.
Oh, wow.
So that makes it a little bit harder, I think, because people can leave. And there's the first night of my recruit school, I think 18 people walked out.
Oh my gosh.
As soon as the yelling and screaming started, they just said, this isn't for me and I'm out of here. So.
Well, thank you for joining us
Yeah,
today.
thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
And we'll be back with more after this.
The Michigan Public Service Commission has a wide range of information available on its website to help utility customers make informed decisions. Everything from energy-saving tips and assistance programs to community events in your area. If you have questions about your natural gas, electric, telecommunications, or video cable service, visit michigan.gov/MPSC or call 1-800-292-9555. A public service message from the Michigan Public Service Commission.
Is that thing getting closer? Look how high that thing's going. Look out there, look at the debris.
Give me the camera.
No, just drive, I've got it.
Zoom in, zoom in.
I can't believe this is happening.
Oh, the size of that thing.
It's everywhere.
Are you getting this?
Yeah, I've got it. What was that?
It's the National Guard.
How'd they get here so fast?
I don't know.
Pull over, pull over.
Do you have what it takes to head into the heart of the storm? Check out NationalGuard.com.
We appreciate all that Sergeant Nesbit does to keep us safe. I hope you enjoyed our show. Join us next time for more Student Connection on M6, your hometown station.